Morning, everyone. Meeting is now live. Welcome to this meeting of the Personnel Committee. There are no fire alarm tests planned for today, so should the fire alarm sound, it will be for real. In the event of fire, please follow the instructions that will be given and congregate on the grass verge to the side of the Quickfit building. The fire exits are the main stairwell to reception and a separate flight of stairs in the kitchen. Reporting at meetings. In the interests of openness and transparency, councillors and members of the public are reminded that the law permits any person to film, record, photograph or use social media in order to report on the proceedings of a meeting of the council or its committees when they're open to the public. The Town Council will record this meeting. Filming and photography will only be permitted in the area designated. No flash photography or additional lighting should be used without prior consent. Anyone wishing to report on the meeting should notify the clerk or the chair so that they can be afforded reasonable facilities. People under the age of 18 or other members of the public not wishing to be filmed or photographed should notify the clerk or the chair and should sit in the area designated for this purpose. Improper conduct or any disruptive behaviour could result in expulsion from this meeting. Can you please ensure that your mobile phones are changed to silent or switched off and adhere to the non-smoking policy for this building and the grounds of Hamilton House? Thank you. Item 133 to receive and consider approval of apologies for absence.
So we've had apologies from Councillor Blowers and Councillor Newsom with reasons provided.
Councillor Parker.
Both accept, Chair.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Barker. Just before we did, so
I was just going to say that I think Councillor Pearce also in his long email said he was also not attending. But I don't know if he emailed you separately, Sarah and Lauren.
He did, but he didn't offer any apologies.
just before I take that proposal and second it to the vote, I just need to explain. I can only chair this meeting until approximately 11:30 this morning, at which point somebody else will have to be appointed to preside over this meeting. We can deal with that now if you wish. Councillor Nasima Begum.
I propose Jen Jones.
I suggest we leave it and we might get through this agenda before 11:30.
Happy to leave it. I was just trying to save you a bit of time. That was all. Yeah, entirely up to you. We've had a proposer and a seconder for the apologies. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 134, declarations of interest and dispensations. 134.1 to receive declarations of disclosable, pecuniary, non-registrable and other registrable interest from councillors on items on this agenda. I don't think we've had any. Yes, there been anything that has long. No. 134.2 to consider written requests for dispensations of interest and note dispensations granted.
No written requests.
Nothing. 135 to consider the draft minutes and confidential note of the meeting on the 6th of February 2025. Are those councillor Brooks?
Propose we approve both.
Have a seconder for that, please. Councillor Raffensperger. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Public forum 136, an opportunity for the public to make comments on any matters on this agenda and to consider any advance comments from the public.
No advance comments received and no one in attendance on the webinar.
Thank you. Item 137, to monitor expenditure from the staffing contingency budget.
I don't believe there's anything tonight.
Nothing to note? No? Any questions? No? Okay. Item 138 has been deferred until the April meeting. So there's nothing to discuss there. Councillor,
just so that, I mean, I'm glad this has been deferred because we've received no update from the meeting that the forum, the East Suffolk Council forum, this apparently came from. and Sarah's reassured me that we will get those notes. I don't know which councillors attended even. Did councillors attend, Sarah?
Yeah, they did. Full council appointed representatives to attend, which was the mayor, the chair of finance and councillor Barker. Unfortunately, councillor Barker wasn't able to on the day. Yeah, I will do that for you.
I think
yeah.
also the councillors need to, they went to the meeting. Let's have some notes from them as well, please.
Yeah, that's fine. And I think Sarah's asked if anybody wishes to contact her regarding this item for April, then please do so. Thank you. Item 139, to consider the following regarding recruitment. 139.1, the recruitment of a town hall heritage apprentice.
Okay, so you've been supplied with a paper relating to that recruitment. There's a couple of matters that would need to be dealt with in confidential session on that, please, Chair. But other than that, you've got the paper, the timeline to proceed with the recruitment. It will be, a full-blown apprenticeship, and all the subsequent rules around apprenticeships will have to be followed.
Councillor Woods.
We've actually discussed this before and we agreed it when Kate was the heritage officer. Unless anything's radically changed, if we need to wait to make a decision in the confidential session, but basically I think we should approve it. It's a good move.
Councillor Murray, then patience.
Councillor Murray.
Thank you. A question about the information that's in the paper. It talks about an amount of money that would need to be allowed for travel from London for the apprentice or apprentices.
Sorry, can you speak up, please, Councillor Murray?
The information paper identifies a sum of money that would need to be allowed for travel from London by the apprentice or apprentices. And it also says that it would be recoverable under an allocated amount of money. But why are we stating that it would need to be from London? What happens? Do we know who this apprentice?
Sorry, no, it's to London.
To London.
They need to go to London to do the course. If it says from, that's a typo. Sorry, it should say to London. The apprenticeship is sponsored by the
That makes
college
sense.
in London, and they
Yeah.
have to go to London.
Makes perfect sense. I was
Okay.
we were assuming the person.
No, not
got
at
it.
all. And we very much hope it will be a local person who'll benefit from the apprenticeship.
Councillor Barker and then Councillor Patience. Yeah, I've got Councillor
Yeah.
Barker first.
Just thank you, Chair. Just to say, I think this is an excellent idea, and the more we can recruit young people, or it might not be a young person, it might be an older person, the better. So it's really good.
Thank you. Councillor Patience.
As I haven't seen the paper, the question is, how long is this apprenticeship?
Yeah.
A year. 1 year.
Paper was
1 year
provided in
apprenticeship? 18 months of the paper.
18 months. Then.
18 months, sorry.
Even 18 months.
Sorry.
You read the paper on there.
That's some apprenticeship, but 18 months. Thank you.
Okay.
Things must have changed since I was an apprentice. I had a 6-year one.
I guess they have, Keith.
Okay.
Thank you. That's grand. 1
Sorry, Nick. Do you think, Sarah, we need to wait for the confidential discussion to vote?
Yeah, probably. Thank you.
Yeah. 139.2, an update on grounds maintenance, that's confidential. 140, to consider the following regarding staffing. 140.1, the resourcing of developing and maintaining a project tracker.
Okay, so as an update to members, we've got 2 major system changes hopefully coming to fruition very shortly. We've got the Shire software, which will have all our assets logged on it, each one with a code, and that will be what our grounds maintenance team use to not only look after our assets, make sure they're serviced and maintained and have reminders come up from it, but also to plan their work. So for, health and safety requirements, it will send alerts to when inspections have got to be done for Legionella, asbestos, fire safety. It'll also, if someone's out, for example, inspecting a play park and they find a broken swing, they'll log it onto the Shire and then it stays on there, it gets a job number, and then when the job's done, it comes off. Okay, so we're hoping once, and at the moment we're way into the process of logging every single asset onto it. You can imagine that's been a big piece of work for us all. Once that's up and running, we hope that that will generate reports. So members, particularly in parks and open spaces and aid, will be able to see all the grounds maintenance activity that has gone on. Okay. That's routine, cyclical things that we do. Okay. There's been questions raised in meetings about newer projects that council have decided to go ahead with and the feeding back of information on how these are progressing. Okay. Things will always progress. We don't forget things. We try and get them progressed. There was once a resolution, I tried to find it, that just because council agrees something doesn't mean we've got to instantly do it. We do, try and manage the time priorities. When we go over to this piece of software, which all your meeting papers and agendas and minutes will be generated from, which is called Decisions, which is part of the Microsoft suite that you've got with your Teams and everything. Okay, we're hoping that that will provide a report of where new projects are, because new projects will get decided at meetings and get recorded in the minutes, and then through some complicated hyperlinking that please don't ask me to explain, you'll be able to generate a report of where the new projects are. Now, again, we all need to be trained on decisions. And when I say we all, it's you as members and us as officers. Our communications officer got hopefully what we call the final meeting with our software provider. Did he say
Tomorrow.
tomorrow? Yeah, he did say tomorrow. I think today's Friday for some unknown reason. Yeah, it's tomorrow. Yeah, indeed it is. So we think that's all imminent. So what we really want guidance from personnel on, and particularly because a lot of members sit on parks and aid as well, is management of expectations. Do you want officers to sit and do a separate spreadsheet now, because that's a time and resource thing, but only if maybe 2 or 3 people to read? Is it worth it? Do you want a separate spreadsheet now? Are you willing to wait and see what you think of the new system? It's, it's trying to manage everyone's expectations. We can't argue that the council hasn't grown. We've got so much going on. It's finding a way of keeping everyone updated, that we know, and it's no criticism, we know that the councillor update is read by less than 50% of the members. We know that because we can see how many people look at it. Okay. And that's, so if we produce another spreadsheet and attach it to the councillor update, is that going to get read? In law, council meetings are to make decisions and debate. Okay, we could have an agenda item as an update on things that were discussed at the last meeting, possibly is another way down, but we just really want to, we are stretched. Who wouldn't be stretched with everything we've got on? So we just want some guidance on expectation and managing expectation, really. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Colby first.
I would propose actually that we look at delaying any further decision on this matter until the new programme is rolled out and we can see how it's working.
Thank you. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, I would agree with what's just been said. However, as to the sort of guidance, I think as one of the people who raised the issue of tracking projects and decisions made, that it wasn't expected or intended to over-engineer the issue. It was what, from my perspective, what I was looking for was almost a quick tally of where we are on things. And if it's to be built into a new software system, that sounds eminently sensible, and it would seem pointless doing something now and then redoing it slightly further down the road. So I agree with that. But from my perspective, what I was anticipating, and maybe it's how the software can be processed or shown, would be for those elements of projects that just to allow councillors to see in a fairly simple, straightforward way, perhaps put onto members' area so that you can see where things have reached without needing to be, and I get everybody needs training and everything almost, but without needing massive skills in the software in order to access it. Just a fairly simple spreadsheet visible thing to see where what we've talked about and it's being done, where it's reached, and maybe a timeline on it, that type of thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor May. Councillor Brooks?
I kind of agree, except I think we wait for this, what sounds absolutely phenomenal, a piece of software to be produced. That'd be very, very helpful. Just a comment, 50% of only 50% of councillors read the councillor update is pretty damning, isn't it? I mean, it's not that long. You can skip through it and read it. I mean, if only 50% are bothering to read it, we don't want to be producing more paperwork for people not to read. I think covering John's point, it might be useful to have update on projects as a kind of standing item on particularly aid and parks agenda, that it's so that we can pick up things from last meetings, like we asked, for example, and then Lauren can do what she does with those meetings is she could, before the meeting, if, you know, say there's no news on this or it's out to tender. I mean, she tends to do it anyway. But if it's not on the agenda, then she doesn't have the opportunity. But if we had the updates on decisions made at the last meeting, rather than any other business, and that was part of while we're waiting for, actually in a way I think that's not a bad thing to do, because it just kind of just keeps us knowing. So I agree with what Neil and John are saying, but I do like the idea of a monthly update in the agenda with Lauren in particular's notes to say where we are with it.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Begum?
I wanted to second Councillor Colby's,
Okay,
what do you call it?
proposal.
Yeah, proposal. I've used similar programs before and they work really well. So I'd like to see how it works before we try and do something else.
Okay, Councillor Patience, and then we'll go to...
Yeah, I've in another organisation that I do belong to, we've got a guy there who's been using this tracker system. Whether it's the same or not, I don't know. It can get very cumbersome. But I fully support the idea of a tracking system. Colleagues who I'm known to would know the system that I'm talking about, and the gentleman who's runs this system. But it becomes very cumbersome. So we need to be wary of that.
Indeed.
Okay, can I just respond, Chair?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, I mean, and Lauren does a brilliant job updating you.
Absolutely.
If that's going to become a formal agenda item, can I just, in way of protecting the hardworking staff, a month goes very quickly, and I don't want it to be a public forum for why hasn't this happened, that happened, because a month goes very, very quickly at the moment.
Yeah, it can't be underestimated, the job that all your staff are doing on our behalf. Thank you. Councillor Woods.
I didn't envisage it like that at all, Sarah, but actually I envisaged it that if it was on the agenda, it means that Lauren can do what she does with the other things anyway, and it might be no progress is made with this, and that's it. It's a question of keeping us up to date and keeping us realistic as well. We know, I mean, I think those of us who do read Councillor Update realise how much work does go on, and that we can't just kind of be doing things all the time. It's just, yes, yeah.
Yeah, sure. If we did get to a position,
Willing to add
just
my bit to his proposal about updates being a regular feature of agenda?
On that one, Chair, no, I'm not, I'm afraid, because I think having an item on the agenda that is that open actually leaves it open for anyone to raise any issue in that meeting, and it actually takes us down a rabbit hole.
okay. Yeah.
I mean, this is exactly the sort of, debate and conversation that we wanted to ask members for
Of
some
course.
guidance on it. So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
useful and it's been, able to update you on systems and things that staff are getting into place. So
Councillor Brooks, and then I'm going back to.
Well, I'll withdraw my suggestion.
Thank you. Councillor Colby, if we can go back to your proposal, just if you can just.
My proposal was basically we hold off on making any decisions about another method of doing it until we see how this particular system works. And we can look at that and try that and work from there.
That's the proposal, seconded by Councillor Begum. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you. That's everybody. And yeah, please do, Lauren, please do. If you do find there's an issue, please make sure you come back to us and say you're not using this as we anticipated, because the last thing we want is to increase your workload. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Moen.
Could I just ask what the timescale, anticipated timescale of this is?
we
Because that would
always
be useful.
wanted everything in place at the start of the new financial year because it will help with the budgeting and everything as well. But no one's going to hold me to it, but I'm hopeful. Ish.
Hopefully-ish. Hopefully-ish. I don't know. Okay, thank you, everybody. 140.2, the publication of anonymised staff salaries.
So, Chair, I provided a meeting paper to this. It took a bit of research to, and there was some confusion even with SALT when I asked, but I did get the definitive answer, which I emailed out last night along with accompanying paper of what has to be published at local council level. It was Councillor Patience who asked for the agenda item.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this has been raised 2 or 3 times over the past 7 years, and each time we've had a negative response because the amount of officers and staff that we had at that particular time. But as we are now recruiting hand over fist, only a job advert was on Facebook this morning for 2 jobs. Our staff and officers are getting larger by the week. That means I would like to see, very similar to which is really in the paperwork that we've had from Sarah yesterday, late last night, or in my case, a statement on officers, not naming names, but positions and the salaries attached to, not necessarily the attached salaries attached to them, but within the salary scales, i.e. we have a person on £25,000. We have 3 people on so-and-so, like that. And I've taken the note. What you've got to remember now is, as I said, our staff is getting larger and larger, and most of us around the table are what I would class as stakeholders. I believe, as a stakeholder, we should be allowed to know what the money is going out to and who to. Not so much who to, but as they do in all the district councils. I understand all the figures which have been produced, but we've got an opportunity now to become very transparent.
I'm slightly unclear of what Councillor Patience is asking. He's asking for members to see the information because I thought the agenda item was
I'm asking that to be published on our website.
Okay, so the guidance paper, section 40 of the Localism Act.
Yes.
Accountability in local pay, County Council, District Council, London Borough, Common Council, etc., Fire Service. There's no statutory requirement to publish that information, so it's for you to debate and decide.
I accept all that. And on the other paper, it says also the transparency code for larger councils over 200,000 K.
Yeah, as you need my supporting paper, which says that does not apply. It's changed.
Exactly.
It's
It
changed.
does not apply. What I'm requesting is it does apply. It's a simple matter of putting it out to be more transparent to the people who are paying our council tax.
I've given the advice. It's a decision for you.
It's a decision. Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, I'm not really too sure why Councillor Patience is so keen that that we individually publish all our staff salaries, when the guidance is that we don't have to. I mean, I thought when he raised the adverts, he was going to actually point out that actually in the advert, it states how much the salary is for the ground maintenance and for the other, what was it, the Heritage Apprentice, was it, the other post? It's actually there. I think we do need, as personnel members and potentially the public as well, maybe we do need to know, maybe they do need to know how much our most senior staff earns. So I would include the town clerk, the deputy clerk and the facilities manager. I think that's, but I think for the other staff, it's, they're on pay grades. And maybe we just put it down as pay grades for that transparency. I do think, you know, that there is a case to be made for our most senior staff salary, not with their names, but just to say what the salary is. And because actually I think people will be surprised because people will think they're on like 200,000 and they're not. I mean, they do have good salaries, but they're not on the kind of salaries that, for example, East Suffolk Council officers are getting, etc., etc. So maybe a bit of a tweak.
Can I respond to that, please, Chair?
Yes, of course.
You're dead right. Absolutely. I didn't mean, and I probably misinterpreted what, or you didn't explain it properly. What I'm not suggesting that we have the amount of the apprentice. What I'm saying is the senior officers, and we put a statement out below that, the remaining staff and officers are covered by what we class as the Green Book. That covers all the what you've just spoken about. Thank you.
Green Book, we've had this conversation before.
We don't have a green book.
It doesn't apply to.
Doesn't apply.
Work to the Green Book,
No,
Chair.
we don't, not local councils.
Not local
We'll have this debate
councils.
Again.
Sorry?
Not local councils don't.
Well, why do we always go and refer to the Blue-Green Book then when we challenge things?
Can you give an example of referring to it? Because I've never heard it referred to. Thank you.
Can you give me an example, Keith?
Well, yeah. If we debate something outside normal work, for example, holidays, we often get a reference. What do the Green Book suggest? And our staff are paid under the local agreement, which has covered what they call the Green Book.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Councillor Murray?
Thank you. I'm not sure if there is a coherent or a strong argument against the principle that Councillor Pearce is putting forward. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I heard the intake of breath there, but apologies for that, Keith. I'm not sure that there is a coherent argument against the publication of salaries, certainly in bands, and giving slightly more detail where appropriate, and perhaps more thought needs to be given to exactly where that particular detail lies. But it is a democratic process that allows ratepayers to know where their money is going and to be aware of it. So in principle, I think it's a very sound and appropriate suggestion that the exact details of which possibly need a little thought and of how it's presented and where it's presented and when. But I would support the principle absolutely. Thank you.
Councillor Colby?
I think one of the issues with this, and has always been raised, is that we have a low number of senior members of staff, and therefore, if you publish actual job titles and the salary, it's immediately identifiable who the member of staff is. So there may be a compromise on this, is that we just use bands and we give so many about senior staff being in this wage band, and then so we balance it down that way. So we protect the kind of rights of an individual, because yes, it is public money, but it's also personal details about what you're earning. And so therefore, if we could work to a compromise on that, and I would suggest possibly we actually, I know Keith may not be happy with this, but we actually get it go back to Sarah to actually bring forward what a proposal of how that could look would be for us to consider.
Councillor Barker.
Yeah, I'd agree with Councillor Colby's point. I think the difference here is the numbers. When you look at, if you go on the East Suffolk website, there's a whole load of people on a certain level earning far more than people do here in senior posts. So in a way, that anonymizes it to some extent, although, you know, there's quite a few of them. Whereas here, it's going to be 2 or 3 people and it'll be easy for those people to be identified. So I agree with Councillor Colby's point that if you had it so that you had a banding of those and then people beneath that level, you could either decide to say there are X number of employees at this particular band and above it, there are 2 or 3 above it. That would be better. Yes, it would be accountable and clear and democratic, but it would not individually label people because you'd easily be able to work it out. So we've got to think as a personnel committee that we're in this quite difficult situation where we're supporting staff as well as being councillors and making sure that we're accountable to the public. We've got to be aware of both of those things at the same time.
Thank you, Councillor Barker. Councillor Brooks.
I think this is becoming unnecessarily convoluted. When I said what I said, Keith nodded and agreed with me. Basically, we are not talking about listing. Nobody is suggesting we list our staff, we put how much their salary is. All that I believe Councillor Patience is saying, which I agree with, is that our top paid staff, and I named 3 because they are our senior managers, not that their name is there, but that we publish the salary of our town clerk, deputy clerk and facilities manager, because they are our top paying. Because if we went out to advertise for those roles, that salary would be in the advert. So basically, we're not doing anything really that radical, because already when you advertise for a job, you say it will be paid at this blah, 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 depending on experience. And obviously there are no names attached. You do the role and the salary. And I can't see anything wrong with that at all. I mean, I don't know why it's getting all confused and people are saying, oh yeah, but we can't have we never suggested. It wasn't suggested that the ground maintenance staff, you know, whose job it is to clean the toilets that we have, it was never been suggested that. They are just purely bans. So can we not keep repeating and confusing things?
Councillor Colby.
Thank you, Chair. We're not repeating confusing things, and what you're saying is not something that was even proposed. All I actually said was to actually look, and it would be the same if we advertised the job, is that this job is in this band of salaries, and that is all I'm actually suggesting is that we use the band of salaries and how many staff are actually at that level, so that we actually use that, which would actually completely anonymise the individuals, but would actually show how the council is spending money on salaries.
So is that a proposal, Councillor?
It is, yes. Thank you, Chair.
Can I have a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Moe.
I want to come back on that because I'm thinking about the public. Now, if I want to know how much the CEO of East Suffolk Council earns, I can Google it and find out. If I want to find out how much the officers at East Suffolk Council earn, I can Google it and I've done it. So I can find out. That's what we mean by transparency, I think. That it isn't a question of us confusing things and giving so much information that nobody understands what the hell we're talking about. Bans and things. It's like, are we going to be transparent or are we just going to be kind of blurring it so that nobody really understands? I should be able, I think, to Google how much does the town clerk of Lowestoft Town Council get paid and get an answer.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't be able to Google how much does Sarah Foote, Lauren Elliott, how much I shouldn't be able to do that.
No.
But actually, I don't think we've got anything to be ashamed of or anything to hide, and that should be public knowledge.
Councillor Colby.
I don't want to keep going around in this in
No.
circles, Chair, but I am not saying that we are hiding anything because I think it's transparent. And unfortunately, where Councillor Brooks is coming up with this is that although you will actually say that, say, the town clerk is earning this much, you are automatically putting it to an individual who can be identified.
You do it, yeah.
East Suffolk do it, but they have a legal requirement to do it.
Different level of
Yeah.
council.
I'll bring you back to the paper I sent out last night. Section 40 of the Localism Act sets out quite clearly who has to publish salary details or doesn't. I would like to ask what right of challenge officers would have of the council making an unlawful decision about publication of salaries.
Would it be unlawful?
That's what I'm being told.
The section 40 of the of the Transparency Code says quite clearly what you have to publish. You are now saying that your decision, no, it's Councillor Colby who's made a proposal, which isn't what you're saying, Councillor Brooks, is that you will publish the salary of the clerk, the deputy town clerk, and the facilities manager. So my salary, not I've got a problem with it, but my salary is out there in the public domain when it doesn't need to be. What Councillor Colby is proposing is the salary scale bands, which is best practice, because when the code, the Transparency Code, before it was changed in January 25, if that was still applying the codes to councils over 200,000, you only had to publish the bands.
So I'm going back. So no, I'm sorry, I'm going back to Councillor Colby's proposal. It's been seconded by Councillor Murray. I want to show of hands for that proposal.
I want to clarify something because then I might vote for it, I might not.
Go on.
Right. When you say the band, included in the band will be the range, or will it be band 2.34 refer to X, Y? That's all I want. If the band will be from blah, blah to blah, blah, then I will vote for your proposal.
That is what my proposal will be. There are actual salary, starting salary and final salary in the scales we use.
So we're all clear on Councillor Colby's proposal. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, I'd just
No.
confirm I support that. One of the particular reasons is it would seem divisive if a group of people who were not in the higher level were grouped together and put in a pot that, say, there are the grounds maintenance team, for example, earn collectively that, but this person, that person, that person earn that. That would seem a bit divisive. So that's why I think the banding approach is the right way.
Last word from Keith.
Yeah,
Before I go.
I'll try and sum all this up. What East Suffolk Council do and Suffolk County Council, they put on the website, we have 3 officers on a certain figure, 1 officer on a certain figure, 15 on another figure. That's
Yeah.
all I'm suggesting.
We've
I
done
think that really mirrors what Councillor Colby is
absolutely.
suggesting. I'm not.
We've had the proposal. We've had the. Okay, thanks.
That's all
Councillor
I'm
Page.
I'm
Yeah.
asking for. That
We've had the
and I-
we've had the proposal. It's been seconded. Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. That's everybody. That's carried.
Sorry, I've lost my agenda.
That's all right. 140.3 and 140.4 are both confidential. Staff terms and conditions, costs of staffing and seasonal work. 141, date of next meeting, Thursday the 3rd of April at 10 o'clock. As usual, items for the next agenda, please.
I have an item on for the next agenda, but I'd rather talk about it, if possible, under confidentiality.
Okay,
I've got an item.
you can discuss it there.
Yeah.
Okay. 143, to resolve that under the Public Bodies Admissions to Meetings Act 1960, the public be excluded from the meeting on the grounds that publicity would be prejudicial to public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted, namely any legal issues or employment matters relating to items on this agenda, including the following: 143.1, any employment matters relating to items on this agenda, including those above as required. Thank you for your attendance. That's can I have a proposal, seconder for that, please, to go into confidential? Councillor Colby and Councillor Jones. So I got there in the end. It was running around in my head somewhere. Yeah, all those in favour, please, confidential. Thank you, that's everyone. Close the meeting at this point.